Dexter Resurrection introduced some of the most twisted serial killers in the entire franchise, all with their own rituals, motives, and trophies. Today, we're going over every psychopath Dexter encountered in his comeback, starting with the one who started it all, Ronald "Red" Schmidt, the Dark Passenger. Ronald Schmidt is introduced in the second episode of the series, Camera Shy. Known to the public only as the Dark Passenger, Ronald's MO included him climbing into the back of random rideshare cars, always meant for someone else, and using a giggly saw to choke the drivers into submission. He would force them to drive to whatever location he had in mind,
turn right up here. We're gonna take the Manhattan Bridge. Okay?
And then decapitate them with the saw wire. As he killed his last victim, he taunted the man, asking who would miss him if he died, and lamented about having everything taken from him and his family. Ronald obviously lived through a traumatic event that sent him down this dark path. He was filled with rage and sought retribution by killing innocent people. Unfortunately for him, Dexter had recently come to New York City to find Harrison, and learned pretty soon after arriving that there was a serial killer that the press dubbed the Dark Passenger. After making fast friends with a Yurcar driver named Blessing, Dexter was made aware of the Dark Passenger's killing spree across the city. Dexter felt personally offended that the name he used to describe the source of his urge to kill was being used by some random guy who attacked innocent people. Calling the man the imposter instead, Dexter was more motivated than usual to take this killer out. He hunted him down, broke into his house, and proved his guilt all in 3 days. Blessing's friend, Chike, was a fellow Yurcar driver. He was the only victim to have met the Dark Passenger and lived to tell the tale. Chike got video of the killer on his dash cam, and in the video, it's shown that Red would slide behind the driver's seat, take out his giggly saw, wrap it around the neck of the driver in one swift motion, and begin directing their route. Chike slammed on the brakes, threw his seat back, and slid out under the saw wire. He was able to get out alive, but his neck was scarred and his ear was badly cut. Unfortunately, his video didn't catch the killer's face because the Dark Passenger wore a specialized hoodie that had infrared lights, unseen by the naked eye, but blinding on camera. He was an efficient killer with at least 7 kills under his belt. This is what earned him an invitation from Leon Prater to the gathering he organizes annually for the accomplished serial killers he's able to track down. Leon's right-hand woman, Charlie, found his apartment, broke in, and left him the invitation along with a large sum of money. Despite this, Ronald Schmidt would never arrive. By the end of episode 3, Ronald found himself strapped to Dexter's table, forced to answer for his crimes.
Innocent. You think those drivers were innocent?
He explained that he was killing Yurcar drivers because he felt that they were leeches in the city that had ruined his father's life. Ronald's reason for killing stemmed from the fact that his father had spent years and thousands of dollars to earn his taxi driver medallion, and in only a matter of months, everything he had worked for was wiped away by the introduction of rideshare apps. Due to the hopelessness of his situation, Ronald's father eventually killed himself by jumping into the East River. To make matters worse, he was accidentally beheaded by the boat that was dragging the river to find his body. He could no longer make money as a cab driver, and he had wasted his savings and years of his life trying to become one. As a result, Ronald grew jaded, and the recourse he chose to rectify matters was to kill random rideshare drivers. The excuse was not enough to stop Dexter from killing him, of course. Dexter let Ronald know that those random drivers had nothing to do with his father's death before stabbing him in the chest, dismembering his body, and burning the remains in a furnace. In Ronald's backpack, Dexter finds the invitation for Prater and decides that he will attend the gathering in Red's place. Unfortunately, it requires a thumbprint for entry, which led Dexter to cut the thumb off of Ronald's dead body, carefully remove the skin of his thumbprint, and mold it over his own. Once he gained entry to the party, it was there that Dexter met the rest of Prater's recruits, the first of which being Mia LaPierre, Lady Vengeance. Mia is the first to arrive at Leon's dinner party after Dexter is escorted in by Charlie. Known as Lady Vengeance, Mia seems to kill by a code of her own, only targeting sexual predators. When she was a child, she had a very unstable home life. Her family moved around a lot, and her father was not in the picture. At some point, she attacked another child in her school by hitting him with a book and putting thumbtacks in his face. She was clearly disturbed from a very young age. Eventually, she left home to attend a dance academy that would keep her away from her dysfunctional family and her mother's creepy boyfriend. When she returned home, she learned that he had sexually assaulted her little sister Hazel. Mia killed him in retaliation. retaliation. He was her first kill, and he was far from her last. Though it's not clear yet how many people she has murdered so far, we know she has performed at least 7 kills. It can be assumed that most, if not all, of her victims are men, and she keeps her trophies, which are random trinkets from each of them, in a music box. Mia is perhaps one of the most compelling serial killers that Prater invited. She knows ballet, she's an expert sommelier, she seems fearless, and like Dexter, she kills by a code. She and Dexter seem to have an instant connection, although she is still under the impression that he is Red, aka Ronald Schmidt. Given Dexter's track record of sparing people whose motives he can empathize with, it may be that Dexter will not kill Mia. That's more than can be said for some of Prater's other guests, who Dexter was planning to kill. He already got to one of them, a man known as the Tattoo Collector.
Hansel, you big tubby.
Lowell may be one of the most insane killers introduced to the Dexter universe. He seems like an affable guy, but his life as a serial killer proves that he is anything but. Lowell targets his victims based not only on who they are, but primarily on his attraction to the tattoos that they've gotten. To imagine someone fleeing the skin of another for pleasure brings back memories of the Skinner, George King, from season 3 of the original series. Yet there is something even more upsetting about the way Lowell goes about it. The Skinner claimed to be skinning people to torture information out of them. He didn't claim to enjoy it, and he had a sort of brooding nature that highlighted just how dark what he was doing really was. Lowell, on the other hand, seems to take a sickening glee in his kills. When he speaks about his work as a serial killer, Lowell almost seems intoxicated by not only what he has done, but what he was planning to do next. His exact MO isn't clear, but it's known that he works as an anesthesiologist, which grants him access to anesthesia that he then uses to subdue his victims. He takes them somewhere discreet and steals their tattoos right off of their living bodies. They may bleed to death, or he may kill them another way after he gets what he wants. That part isn't clear. Regardless, his ritual is one of the most horrifying one can imagine, and at least 26 innocent people have died by it. He caused his killing inevitable. When he arrived at Prater's party, Lowell had his sights set on a young woman named Jules. She was in the process of getting a very personal and detailed tattoo of her recently deceased dog. He made that known at Prater's dinner, and Dexter knew then that he'd have to take Lowell out soon. In his pursuit to learn more about Prater and the serial killers he invited, Dexter invited Lowell out for a drink. Once they met, Lowell told Dexter, still believing him to be Red or the Dark Passenger, that he was planning to kill and skin the woman that he seemed to have chosen the bar they met at because it was across the street from the tattoo parlor where she was getting her tattoo done. This meant that Dexter had to get to Lowell soon before he could get to her. In the end, Dexter used Lowell's own anesthesia to knock him out and dragged him back to the tattoo parlor. Once he had Lowell on his table, Dexter revealed his true identity before killing him with one of his own knives. He dismembered Lowell and disposed of him in the same furnace he used to get rid of Red. Lowell is as deserving of Dexter's table as anyone, and he even collected a blood slide from him. It's unclear what the fallout from eliminating Lowell will be. After all, Prater's #1 rule was not to turn on anyone in the group. But then again, Dexter already infiltrated Prater's group under a fake identity, so it's unlikely he's concerned with facing any consequences. He's probably going to outsmart Prater and avoid any consequences, but at least one of the killers Prater recruited was not as lucky. We meet the Canton Clubber very briefly, but he made a huge impact. Keith runs into Prater's right-hand woman, Charlie, while trying to use an ATM. Unfortunately, he discovers that he has no money in his account. Apparently, he had broken one of Prater's rules, and as a result, he had been cut off. Prater pays all of the serial killers he connects with in order to obtain their trophies and encourage them to comply with his rules. It seems that the primary rule is that they are never to turn on the group, but there is another one that Charlie mentions to Keith when they meet. No requests, no demands, or you are out. Keith was desperate for money. He tells Charlie that work had been slow, and that is why he asked Prater for $100,000. But his request for more money was not going to be honored. It could even be taken as a threat. Leon Prater is a man with a lot to lose, and he can't have people who know about his dark tendencies demanding money or threatening to expose him. Charlie gave Keith the opportunity to walk away. She discredited any leverage he thought he had, but he was persistent. When his pleas fell on deaf ears, he threatened to go to the FBI and tell them what Leon Prater had been up to.
I got some really great souvenirs I could bring him. It'll be worth it to him.
But Charlie scoffed at the notion, knowing that Keith couldn't do that without also revealing to the authorities that he was a serial killer. But still, he wouldn't give up. As Charlie turned to leave, Keith grabbed her arm, desperate to speak with Prater, and that was his last mistake. She beat him to death using his own murder weapon, a bat with several long nails driven through it. Based on his moniker, it's obvious that Keith beat his victims to death using the bat Charlie found in his house. Charlie told him that he broke a rule by requesting money money from Prater, and at dinner, Prater implies that he turned on someone in the group, though it's unclear who that was or how he crossed them. Either way, Keith was killed in broad daylight, and his bat was commandeered by Prater, who added it to his collection of serial killer memorabilia. Perhaps more details about him will be revealed as the series continues, but at this point, he serves as a reminder that Leon Prater is a dangerous man who will use extreme methods to protect himself and his own interests. Even still, Prater is able to attract a variety of killers who are unbothered by this fact, like Al Jolly. Al Jolly is a father from Middle America as well as a deeply demented serial killer. When he arrives at Prater's party, he is on a video call with his kids, and before he wraps it up, he says, "Love you and mom," indicating that he's also married. He greets Mia warmly and shows her and Dexter a picture of his family. Dexter is surprised to see that he is balancing family and serial killing, given how his family was destroyed by his urge to kill. Al explains that he considers his killing to be self-care that allows him to better care for his family, and this seems to land with Dexter.
Space for both family and this.
I gotta admit, I feel guilty when I leave, but these little business trips are good for me and the family. Gives me a chance to take care of my needs so I can better show up for my family. It's not selfish.
Overall, Al seems to be a big softie, even expressing sadness to hear that the dog of Lowell's next victim had passed away recently, but he is still a murderer. He calls himself the ponytail guy and seems almost proud of his work. It begs the question if he is actually a good family man or if he treats his family the way that the Trinity Killer treated his. Not much is known yet about Ponytail Guy, aka Rapunzel, but Mia intimates that he has severe mommy issues and that his mother wore her hair in a ponytail, inspiring his choice of victim and the trophies he collects, which are the ponytails of the women he strangles. He mentions to the group himself that he was an oddball in high school, which, seeing as he became a serial killer, is to be expected. Al also tells the group that he calls his desire to kill the need. He is almost certainly going to meet his end by Dexter's hand at some point, but for now he is still kicking and is the funniest and most personable of Prater's guests. Almost the exact opposite of Prater's last guest, Gareth, the Gemini killer. Perhaps the most elusive killer to attend Prater's dinner party, Gareth shares very little about himself or what he had been up to since the last time they all met up. He has a brooding energy that Lowell jokes is almost too stereotypical for a serial killer. More details about him are sure to be revealed soon enough, but for now, all that has been disclosed is that he is known as the Gemini killer, suggesting that he likely kills in sets of 2, and that he calls his need to kill the Great Yearning. He collects trophies in the form of photographing each of his victims. His cold and withdrawn demeanor only sparks greater interest in what his deal is and why he became a killer. We are all waiting with bated breath to discover more about the mysterious Gemini killer.